ADR. Promoting dialogue. It's midday in Dakar, 1 o'clock in Lagos. Good afternoon and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and worldwide on wadr.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. Mild drama played out in the trial of Beninese businessman Olivier Boko as defense lawyers stage a walkout. Ghana's President Mahama presents final list of ministerial nominees to Parliament.
Tinubu has actually lost favor in the eyes of these coup plotters, and so that put Ghana in a poor position to take the lead. But my worry is that is it coordinated effort with ECOWAS or it's just unilateral decision? Group in Côte d'Ivoire launches national peace campaign ahead of presidential election, and reactions trail speech of U.S. President Donald Trump with experts foreseeing major funding cut in Africa.
I have never in my life heard of an inaugural address that strips naked all the achievements of his successor and his predecessors.
There's going to be budgetary cuts in support of U.S. aid and development assistance.
Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Here is a more edit with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast and a warm welcome to our listeners across the sub-region. Let's begin with the updates in Benin of the highly publicized trial of former associates of Beninese President Olivier Boko and Oswald Omeki at the CRIEF on Tuesday, which was marred by tensions and unexpected twists. As soon as the debate opened, the defense lawyers raised a major irregularity linked to the composition of the court, linked to successive suspensions of the hearing. The lawyers denounced an irregularity in the formation of the court, citing Article 254 of the Code of Criminal Procedure, which stipulates that a criminal court must consist of 5 members, a president and 4 assessors. However, the current court is composed of a president and 2 assessors only. Christopher Teacher brings us the update.
Mr. Pokam Konde, representing the defense, insisted on the need to respect the legal provision before any continuation of the debate. He asked the court to rectify its composition to guarantee the legitimacy of the trial. The court suspended the hearing at 10:13 a.m. to deliberate on the exception raised by the defense. 15 minutes later, it decided to join the exception to the merits, thus allowing the debates to continue despite the objections of the lawyers. At 10:30, a new suspension was requested by the defense between the lawyers and the members of the court. When the hearing resumed at 11:02, Mr. Ayodele Ahono took to the floor to express his disappointment at the court's decision to continue the proceedings with a composition that he considered illegal. In an unexpected move, he announced that he was withdrawing from the defense of businessman Olivier Boko. Following this, the other defense lawyers also decided to withdraw, leaving the defendant without legal defense for the remainder of the trial. This twist creates major uncertainty about the continuation of the trial. The disestablishment of the defense raises questions about the continuation of the debate, the possibility of a postponement, or even a procedural defect.
Christopher Teacher with that update. We will be bringing you more of that in our subsequent bulletin. In the meantime, Ghana's Speaker of Parliament is expected to read a letter containing the final group of ministerial nominations made by President John Mahama on the floor of Parliament on Tuesday. The letter, although signed and presented to Parliament on Monday, is to be made public today because Parliament does not convene on Mondays. This is also because before being made public, the nomination of ministers must be formally communicated to Parliament. This final list of ministerial nominations by the President is in fulfillment of his promise to appoint all of his preferred ministers within 14 days of being sworn in as President. The President has reiterated his commitment to work with no more than 60 ministers. John Mahama was inaugurated as President of Ghana on January 7, 2025. In the meantime, President Mahama has appointed African Union Chairperson Special Representative in charge of Counterterrorism Cooperation, Larry Govlo Latte, as a special envoy to the Alliance of the Sahelian State AES. His appointment to the office of the presidency is aimed at strengthening governance, enhancing operational efficiency, and deepening ties between Ghana and the newly formed AES member countries. The appointment of Larry Gbevlo-Latte comes at a time the AES member countries are vowed to exit the regional bloc by 29th of January 2025. A security analyst and international affairs expert with Dan Rakia Institute, Alassane Suleiman Bello, has been analyzing the establishment of this new envoy and possible impact on regional peace and stability.
Look at the invitation extended by the new president during his inauguration, aside Ibrahima Traore of Burkina Faso, aside Doumbouya, Goita, and what do you call this guy, and the extended invitation to even the Gabonese military junta leader. And from that instance, I felt it was an opportunity to create a room for dialogue, and that also gives Ghana enormous regional clout. Stemming from the fact that due to the forceful rhetoric of Nigeria and its failure to match words with action when it threatened to invade its neighbor Niger, Tinubu has actually lost favor in the eyes of these coup plotters, and so that position put Ghana in a poor position to take the lead. But my worry is that is it coordinated effort with ECOWAS, or it's just unilateral decision, minding the fact that Juma Ifai of Senegal is official ECOWAS envoy to those AES countries, and he has been trying to negotiate with them to see so that the rift between these countries and ECOWAS can be resolved. But if restoration of democracy is the condition on the table, that I don't foresee these countries coming back to ECOWAS fold. But if some other areas of mutual interest and mutual concern are first of all addressed in terms of cross-border crimes, in terms of Islamist insurgency, mind you, there was a recent attack on Benin Republic. I think one of the worst attacks that killed about 40 soldiers. It tells you the transnational nature of terrorism and the need to address it regionally.
Does it mean that the attempt or the creation of the special envoy to the Alliance of the Sahelian States truly means that Ghana fully recognizes the confederation of the AES?
Sending an envoy does not really signify a recognition. What might signify recognition was the invitation of those junta leaders to the president's inauguration. But that itself is an admission of the fact on the ground. And let's take a look at these coup plotters in their individual capacity. Okay, Doumbouya overthrew an unpopular leader who was abusing the constitution against the silence of ECOWAS. The ECOWAS protocol, 6 months prior to election or electoral related, laws and activity, and regulations and institutions are not supposed to be tampered with.
Security and International Affairs analyst with Dan Rakia Institute, Alassane Suleiman Bello, analyzing the appointment of African Union Chairperson Special Representative Larry Gbevlo-Latte as the special envoy to the Alliance of the Sahelian State, AES.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
In Burkina Faso, the National Council for Emergency Relief and Rehabilitation, CONASO, held an ordinary session on the reintegration of more than 1 million displaced persons who have returned thanks to the action of the Burkinabe fighters. The 17th ordinary session was chaired by the new Minister of Humanitarian Action and National Solidarity, Commander Pasowende Pelagie Cabre. On the occasion, she praised the bravery of the fighters who enabled more than 1 million people displaced by terrorism to return to their places of origin. Minister Cabre said that as of December 31, 2024, the return of the 1.1 million people from 165,375 households in 397 localities of origin have been recorded. In neighboring Côte d'Ivoire, where less than 10 months before the presidential election, a campaign for peaceful elections is to be launched next February, named My Côte d'Ivoire, My Peace. This initiative by the NGO Way for Life aims to prevent electoral violence by promoting tolerance and non-violence among voters. The campaign, which will begin in February, will run throughout the electoral process to ensure peaceful elections. More details with Albin Ade and voiced by Abdullah Hassan.
The objective of the My Côte d'Ivoire, My Peace campaign is to raise awareness among the population about the importance of peace and social cohesion. The NGO Way for Life aims to contribute to the prevention of violence with 9 months remaining until the presidential election. Lucien Asuku is the president of the non-governmental organization.
Ce projet a pour objectif de sensibiliser de façon globale les populations, les acteurs.
This project aims to raise awareness among the population, political actors, and autonomous entities about the importance of peaceful elections. The campaign, My Cohesion, My Peace, calls on every citizen, leader, and political actor to work together to ensure that the elections are a foundation for strengthening democracy in Africa.
During its campaign, the NGO Way for Life will conduct several activities starting from February 15th. These include the publication and distribution of white papers for peaceful elections, seminars, conferences, and awareness campaigns in public transportation. The My Côte d'Ivoire, My Peace campaign, which will extend until the end of the electoral process, invites every Ivorian to be a peace advocate by rejecting violence and prioritizing dialogue, tolerance, reconciliation, and forgiveness.
That was Al Benadet's report in Abidjan, voiced by Abdoulaye Hassan. Also in Côte d'Ivoire, Prime Minister Robert Bougre-Mambe has launched the National Internship, Apprenticeship and Retraining Program in Abidjan. The PNSAR's mission is to improve the employability of young people by offering them internship, apprenticeship and retraining opportunities. Achatiso has more details in this report.
To enable young people to access the office, an electronic platform called AEJ has been set up. The AEJ platform, integrating artificial intelligence, makes it possible to search for job and internship offers according to the profile of young people after having integrated their CVs. This system, launched this Monday, should be operational at the beginning of February 2025. This program has been implemented since 2019 and is part of the implementation of Access 1 of the government's youth program, dedicated to accelerating training, professional integration, and promoting youth entrepreneurship. Its launch took place at the Palais de la Culture with the aim of informing and raising awareness among young people, as well as technical and financial partners on the different articulations and presenting their operating methods. The Minister for Youth Promotion, Professional Integration and Civic Service, Mamadou Touré, stressed that this initiative provides practical answers to the problems of young people in terms of orientation, internship, and employment. The PNSAR is aimed at young people aged 16 to 40 and is divided into 4 sub-programs: the qualification course, the pre-employment or qualification course, the school course or diploma validation course, apprenticeship, as well as retraining and requalification training.
Achatiso filed that report. You're listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, 94.9 FM Dakar, and via partner stations across the sub-region. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Mild drama played out in the trial of Beninese businessman Olivier Boko as defense lawyers stage a walkout. Ghana's President Mahama presents final list of ministerial nominees to Parliament. The group in Côte d'Ivoire launches national peace campaign ahead of presidential election. And still ahead, reactions, drilled speech of U.S. President Donald Trump with experts foreseeing major funding cut in Africa. We do have the press review, guest interview, and sports news. Please stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
Don't forget you can listen to us live on wadr.org, YouTube, and Facebook. Now, global reactions have continued to trail the inaugural speech of U.S. President Donald Trump, with many, especially African leaders, uncertain about the future of the continent's relationship with the U.S. While others have lauded President Trump's speech for thinking America first, others, like international relations expert and Nigeria's former external affairs minister, Professor Akinwande Bolaji Akinyemi, however, says the speech was empty with no intention, especially for Africa.
This was not an inaugural address. This was more like a rabble-rousing address to a mob in the United States. There was nothing there for the rest of the world. It was more an address threatening different parts of the world rather than an address calling upon the world to be a partner to the United States. I have never in my life heard of an inaugural address that strips naked all the achievements of his successor and his predecessors. While they are sitting, it was such a crude address. I know you want me to focus on Africa or what Nigeria should look forward to. You are giving me a task I cannot do because I'm not really sure that if you ask Trump to spell Africa or to spell Nigeria or to locate where we are on the globe, he will be able to do so. We are out of his focus.
Meanwhile, for his part, Ghanaian-based international relations expert Michael Nketia says it's time for African leaders to sit up as President Trump will be pulling off some funding plugs.
Yesterday, he talked so much about his administration not taxing Americans to enrich the rest of the world. Rather, he's going to tax the rest of the world to enrich Americans. That should tell us that African countries, African leaders should expect a lot of budgetary support. They shouldn't expect a lot of budgetary support from the American government under the administration of Donald Trump. There's going to be budgetary cuts in support of U.S. aid and development assistance to the rest of the world. There's going to be a lot of budget cuts. So if you are an African government whose budget relies solely or is hugely dependent on foreign aid to foreign donor support, on development assistance from America, you should be worried.
Well, we do have more on that discussion with Michael Nketia on our guest interview segment. In the meantime, the Victim Center of the Gambia, comprising victims of former President Jammeh's regime, has lamented challenges they are faced with. This comes after the Select Committee on Human and Constitutional Rights visited the center with a view to fostering better working relations with the two institutions. The victims also applauded the members of parliament for implementing the reparations bill, which seeks to provide reparations for the victims. Speaking during the meeting on Monday, the head of programs at the Victim Center, Keba Jome, highlighted some of the challenges of the center, key among which is funding, while Adama Jallo, a board member of the Victim Center, applauded the members for enacting the reparations bill. Although the government has been providing medical supplies and healthcare services to some of the victims, they still face major challenges. There is hope that the enactment of the reparations bill and the formation of reparations commission will address some of the major challenges. Now, Nigeria has officially joined the BRICS coalition, which now includes Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and Nigeria. As Africa's most populous nation and the sixth largest economy in this group, Nigeria's membership presents an opportunity to enhance its economic influence and explore new trade relations, particularly with major economies like China and India. Usman Mara tells us more in this report.
This membership provides a platform for Nigeria to negotiate better trade agreements and attract investment in key sectors such as agriculture, technology, and renewable energy. Economists like Chris Ekio emphasize the potential for diversification away from oil dependency.
So yes, capitalist investors around the country will feel that way, but for the general good, I think it's one of the best things that has happened by expanding our frontiers for economic growth and access to global funding that will not muzzle us in the future. Being a member of BRICS expands the frontier for Nigeria to access more, even funding for our infrastructure that will even help local production.
Irame Nicholas, an economic expert, however, warns that internal challenges, including infrastructure deficits and security issues, must be addressed to fully capitalize on these opportunities.
Nations are beginning to think about how they could, either form new alliances or realign with old blocks to ensure that how they could, build up their economy. And let's not forget that Nigeria itself is one of the stronger powers in Africa with a very strong GDP. So Nigeria, it's also seen to the extent to which they can ensure that it maximizes its economic benefits in terms of development instead of trade, and how this could really work within the context of joining the BRICS and other countries.
Nigeria's inclusion in BRICS also signifies a shifting dynamic in global economics, where developing countries are gaining more prominence and agency in international discussions. This evolution reflects the bloc's ambition to challenge the dominance of Western-led institutions and amplify African voices on the global stage. As Nigeria navigates this new chapter, its success will depend on effective engagement with BRICS partners and tangible improvements in domestic conditions. The coming months will reveal whether Nigeria can leverage its membership for meaningful growth or risk missing out on strategic opportunities. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Omar reporting from Abuja.
This is the newspaper review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the newspaper review.
The newspaper review.
Well, we join Grace Joshua in Monrovia for the newspaper review.
For today's edition of the press review, papers we are following are the Liberia Investigator newspaper, the Independent Pope newspaper, and the Front Page Africa newspaper. On the front page of the Liberia Investigator newspaper, this one says discrepancy in damage value, torture allegations cloud Capitol fire investigation. Still on the Liberia Investigator newspaper, NEC budget director's suspicious boss continue reveal church document. We now move to the front page Africa newspaper. On the front page of the Front Page Africa newspaper, First Lady Khatum Wadr has suspended 2 staff members involved in a controversial scholarship scheme, but her decision has been described as insufficient given the serious nature of the allegations and damages done to the public trust. Liberia government $1.8 million United States bond sparks outcry as Capitol arson suspects sent to prison. We now move to this story on the Independent Pope newspaper. Liberia and Morocco forged stronger tie with 15 landmark agreements. The event was attended by Liberia Minister of Foreign Affairs Sarah Beslow Yenati and her Moroccan counterpart Nasa Barati. Still on the Independent Pope newspaper, Liberia MCC compact separating fact from HPS fiction. This is how we come to an end of today's edition of the press review.
Many thanks, Grace Joshua, there with the newspaper review.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Our focus in this segment of the news is the global reaction that is trailing the speech made by U.S. President Donald Trump, especially from African leaders and experts of all kinds. Donald Trump was sworn in as the 47th President of the U.S. on Monday. During his inaugural speech, Trump promised to restore the American dream, while also warning of what he described as chaos and destruction led by the previous administration. Well, this statement, however, has caused some uncertainty among African leaders, with aspects already predicting a slowdown in funding. But let's hear more from my guest, international relations expert Michael Garcia.
Donald Trump himself has been an unconventional politician, and regarding international relations and global diplomacy, he has demonstrated over the years that he doesn't toe the line of normal international diplomacy and statesmen. If you look at some of the words, the nature of words, the kind of words and alleged descriptions he gave to some countries, referring to people from Mexico and the Caribbean and Latin America who come to the country as criminals, as murderers, as rapists. These are very highly undiplomatic languages to be used by perhaps the most powerful man on earth. So it is not surprising that even in his second term, despite all the experiences he garnered in his first term, he still continues to use this kind of pedestrian approach in his speech delivery, using some words which may not qualify or may not be accepted in the natural political landscape. But that is Donald Trump for you. That makes him different from other political actors in the international arena. And that makes him different from other political actors. He told the same rhetoric, arguments, and line that Trump has been known for since he emerged in 2015 to contest for the U.S. presidency.
Mr. Mike,
and it is not surprising.
Yeah, let me quickly take you up on the African-U.S. relationship. Already we have seen Donald Trump pulling off the plug from the support of the WHO. This has also shaken African leaders as to what is Trump bringing on board, for the Africa-U.S. relationship. What do you think may likely happen?
Yesterday, he talked so much about his administration not taxing Americans to enrich the rest of the world. Rather, he's going to tax the rest of the world to enrich Americans. That should tell us that African countries, African leaders should expect a lot of budgetary support. They shouldn't expect a lot of budgetary support from the American government under the administration of Donald Trump. There's going to be budgetary cuts in support of U.S. aid and development assistance to the rest of the world. There's going to be a lot of budget cuts. So if you are an African government whose budget relies solely or is hugely dependent on foreign aid to foreign donor support, on development assistance from America, you should be worried. Also, we know that during his first administration, he cut American funding to the United Nations Climate Convention. Yes. He withdrew even America's signatory to the Paris Climate Agreement and Accord. And all these affected the billions of dollars that were pledged in Paris for climate interventions, either climate adaptation or meditation on the African continent. And he's hell-bound to continue all those anti-green initiatives, cut funding for foreign donor assistance, and also cut funding for climate and other green interventions and initiatives. And all these will come at a cost to African countries, especially when we remain the most vulnerable to climate risk and disasters, and when we need so much money for various forms of climate adaptation and mitigation interventions on the continent.
International relations experts Dr. Michael Chez speaking there. Here is Sport News with Sankule Janko.
Hello out there, a warm welcome and thank you for joining us. Let's begin with cricket today. The junior female Yellow Greens of Nigeria's under-19 women's cricket team stunned the cricket wall with a thrilling 2-run victory over test-playing nation New Zealand in their opening match of the 2025 ICCU under-19 Women's T20 World Cup on Monday, according to Brila Sport. The historic win took place at the Boreno Cricket Ground in Sarawak, Malaysia, as Nigeria showcased resilience and determination to pull off one of the tournament's biggest upsets. With this monumental win, Nigeria sits second in Group C with 3 points, thrilling leader South Africa, who defeated Samoa by 10 wickets. Both Nigeria and South Africa are strong contenders to advance to the Super 6 stage of the tournament. This victory not only marks Nigeria's first ever win in a Cricket World Cup, writing their name in the books of record, but also underscores the rapid growth of women's cricket in the country, Brila reports. And in football, the eagerly anticipated final draw of the CAF Africa Cup of Nations AFCON Morocco 2025 will be held in Rabat on 27 January 2025, where the 24 competing teams will learn their opponents. According to CAF official website, the draw to be attended by the 24 nations that have qualified for the AFCON 2025. The draw provides the national teams with the opportunity to assess excellent match venues, training facilities and hotel infrastructure in Morocco. Morocco will be hosting the finals for the first time since 1988 as we enter an exciting time for the North African nation, who are also co-hosts of the 2030 FIFA World Cup alongside Spain and Portugal. And that's it for sports. It's back to you.
And we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Mustafa Sek and Sheikh Jai for the technical support. Do connect with us on all of our social media platforms, X, formerly Twitter, Instagram, at WADR News. I am Imo Edet. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, Newmi FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.